So good morning. My name is Natalie Gilly and I'll be your webinar moderator today. Welcome to the Minnesota Bike Walk Leadership Network webinar. We'll be joined by some speakers from Jackson, Minnesota today, and I will go ahead and share my screen here so we can get started. So as I mentioned, this is the Minnesota Bike Walk Leadership Network webinar. The spotlight community today is Jackson, Minnesota. And the topic is strategic partnerships and infrastructure. Today we're on May 17th, 2023. So first of all, we'd like to see who's here today. If you'd like to go ahead and type your name in the chat box, what location, your location, wherever you're at. And then here's a guiding question for today to just kind of get the conversation started, getting the wheels turning about the topic. Who are successful strategic partners for biking and walking and rolling work in your community? And just a nod, kudos to all of the folks coming together to do this work. So thank you so much to everyone who's been doing work in establishing strategic partners, building those local coalitions. And as you'll hear from the speakers today, those are critical to the success of these projects that kind of take a long time to get going and built up. And those partners are really important to the work. So we'll hear some more from the speakers about that today. So just want to welcome folks. And this is the Minnesota Bike Walk Leadership Network. The purpose is to connect local bike walk leaders to share stories and ideas about how they're lifting up the walking and biking culture in their communities. Bikeman has a land acknowledgement statement. We want to acknowledge that we occupy the ancestral land of the several indigenous groups, including the Dakota, Ojibwe, Ho-Chunk, Cheyenne, Oto, Iowa, and Meskwaki people. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the people who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We affirm the Bicycle Alliance of Minnesota's commitment to a partnership with Native nations and urban Indian communities. Despite centuries of colonial violence, this is still and always will be Indigenous land. Indigenous peoples are still here, demonstrating innumerable talents and gifts in the midst of continued oppression. They must be celebrated and uplifted. You'll see here a link if you'd like to find out what native land that you're located on. Ted will share that in the chat box, and then you're welcome to click on that if you'd like to learn a little bit more. Many of you may be part of the Safe Routes to School Network. This is happening also on a monthly basis, led by Julie from Move Minnesota. The upcoming topics for Thursday, let's hear. This one was May 4th, took place making the most of statewide student data and safe routes to school. So that would be a replay you can probably access through Julie. In June, the network webinar will not take place. Instead, there will be a Safe Routes to School meetup on June 6th from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Minneapolis. So save the date. In July, the Safe Routes to School Network will meet on Thursday, July 6th from 10 to 11 with a topic of summertime planning for fall engagement. So if you're not already on that network and you would like to join, email juliej@movemn.org. So the first speaker today, I'd like to introduce Luke Ewald and welcome him to the webinar. Just a little background on Luke here. Luke grew up in Monticello, Minnesota for 25 years, attended college at St. Cloud State University, and moved to Jackson in 2014 for a career at Des Moines Valley Health and Human Services, Cottonwood and Jackson County's Public Health. He joined the Friends of the Jackson County Trails Committee in 2017 with the idea of creating a bike-friendly community in Jackson, Minnesota. While Luke is an avid runner and hiker, he does love riding his full suspension mountain bike and road bike throughout communities in Cottonwood and Jackson counties in Minnesota here. Welcome to the webinar, Luke.
Yeah, that was definitely an earful there, Natalie. But yeah, I guess to note, I'm not the only one who will be presenting. You know, Jeremy and Jeff and Lynn, you all are welcome to chime in. So Jeremy, you're welcome to do your introduction, and then Jeff can go next.
Yeah, You want me to get started, Luke?
Yep, go ahead and give your introduction quick.
Okay, yeah. Jeremy Bartosh. I work for the County of Jackson. I've been a member of the Trails Committee and in this working position of Parks and Trail Supervisor within the county since 2019. So this project had already been kind of initiated a couple of years in advance. I live in the area, and we have some campgrounds in the county that we maintain as well, but it's our trail development that has been kind of growing in the last few years, and this has been kind of a gem in the rough that we're excited to talk about today. Jeff?
Yeah, and I'm Jeff Johnson, live in Jackson. I'm just a long time advocate for physical and mental health. Created a triathlon and now an obstacle challenge in Jackson. Been fortunate to compete in several Ironmans, Boston Marathon, and some big Spartan events as well. My hero is Lynn, who's speaking next year. So
I'm nobody's hero, Jeff. I'm just old. I am Lynn Anderson, retired teacher, FIAD and health. I've been retired since 2009. I was one of the original members of the Friends of the Jackson County Trails. We've been around for about 20 plus years. Started slow, kept at it. Dorian really was a good feather in our cap. He helped us a lot. We were kind of three ladies who got started here. I'm starting to ease my way out the back door, but I'm very excited about Belmont County Park, and I want everybody to know about it.
Now, Lynn's lying about easing her way out. She's still the backbone of the group. So. But yeah, so yeah, thanks everyone for those quick introductions. So, the official name for the Belmont County Park or single track, I think if Sam would be here, Sam's the bicycle shop guy in Jackson. He decided to name it the West Fork Single Track. So that's kind of the official name, for the trail, for the single track in Belmont County Park. So now that you can advance to the next slide, please. And then this is just an overview. We'll just, do a quick, timeline of everything, talk about the trails briefly, and then kind of the grants that we took to get there. So just a basic overview. And then you can advance to the next slide. Lynn, how about you do this? How about you want to kick this off with about the friends?
Well, sure. Basically what I said, it's a county group. We started in 1998, but really it didn't get going until about 99. The membership grew. We've gone through a lot of good members. Luke has really helped a lot when he came in with the active living and got us talking to other communities in our county. I guess probably the biggest trouble I can say over the past years was we tried to get a state trail along the Des Moines River. The national parks helped us, two ladies from there. And we kind of ran into some landowner roadblocks, but we got the job done. And started trying for bike friendly community maybe in 2015 and finally have achieved that, excuse me, in 2018 and 2021.
Perfect. Right on. Yeah, you can advance to the next slide, please. All right, how about you take this one there, Jeremy?
Yeah, so what was actually built, we've got, off-road trails, they're called single track as well. But basically, you know, they're basically, when they're built, they're no wider than 4 foot. And so when you're going and you got your hands on the handlebars and your elbows out, there could be a few situations where you're coming tree to tree. But we tried to make the trail, you know, there's some situations where it's wide enough where we can have bikers go in one direction, and we're really encouraging, you know, if hiking is going to be there, that they go the opposite direction. And we've labeled things accordingly on different parts of the trail for that. Next slide. So basically, we are located roughly about 12 miles from Lakefield, 15 miles from Windham, Minnesota, and from Jackson, we're just about 5 miles north and a couple miles west. And it has been a piece of ground that the county has owned for quite a while now. And there had been kind of a shelter house there, pit bathroom, but this was kind of an accumulation of a total of 80 acres, but an accumulation of, you know, way back when landowners had, you know, a 2.5 or a 5 acre lot of land that they would go to and harvest their firewood. And so it had been kind of a low use area that the group approached the county wanting to do something to make it a little more use. We wanted to create a destination for regional trail, and the address is the one that's posted there. Next. Some of these photos show some of the terrain. These were taken, I believe, in the fall. We do have kind of we're right alongside the Des Moines River, and this bluff and wooded terrain, it really offers a unique perspective, and it offered the trail designer a unique opportunity to create something in our area of southwestern Minnesota, which, you know, normally people think of being flat, farm ground, and that single track isn't, you know, you hear about that being more in the Iron Range, the north part of the state, and that's why this group was trying so hard to target this piece, because we knew that we would be able to get, 5 to 6 miles of trails within this facility. Our next closest one would be Mankato, and then really you got to go across the border into South Dakota, where Sioux Falls is starting to incorporate some in their parks. So as I said before, the park was being utilized very little. I was out there a little bit this morning and met somebody out there. It's morel mushroom season, so they were out there and it's starting to be that time. And so we were looking to kind of fill a need. We have the benefit that we are a neighbor to one of Southwest Minnesota's state parks, Kylan Woods, the county land and that state park. I mean, if you look at a map, the property is only within, it's probably only separated by about a mile, but and there's no place really there for mountain biking. And so this is going to be a win-win situation for both entities, the state and the county. So we were looking for a place, with Kylan Woods, and then we have some local campgrounds that, visitors could enjoy the area, hike and bike. And then if we can scroll down, we hope to have a local bike club starting as well. So this kind of talked a little bit about the huge single track gap in southwest Minnesota. On the far right-hand screen, you could see all the sites where in the last 20 years, a lot of these locations have really been popping out. And, anywhere from Rochester all the way up to Duluth, Iron Range, really heavily packed. And we were in that area in the bottom left-hand corner. And so we finally get our dot on the map. So the group was also looking for, opportunities that other places, when these came in, it afforded potential for, maybe some increased revenue, visitors having another, can stay at local hotels. Also looking at it from a standpoint of, bringing in not just visitors and tourists, but for those that make their livelihood in the area. And as job opportunities increase, making it look like a very good place for people to come because of the entities that this would help present. Single tracks are growing in popularity. As far as the high school, they're starting a high school cycling league. It's been in place now for, I think, 5, 6, 7 years, but it's one of the faster growing sports that's taking off. And so anybody else on the team have anything to say?
Yeah, I can jump in here real quick, Jeremy. So, I know before your time, this whole thing really started in 2017. Sam was probably the biggest advocate for this. And, I remember, when he came and I joined, this was his baby getting this thing going. And, it did take a number of years for it to finally come to fruition, but with all the meetings we had with, the commissioners, with, I'm pretty sure we visited with some of the city council members. Of course, we visited, the Capitol, the testifying, and I know there's some slides coming up with that, but I saw this as, some of the things you mentioned, just as that whole opportunity to kind of, create a community where folks want to come and live, because that's something that we lack in our southwest Minnesota area. Most of the folks that live in Jackson, the city of Jackson, are over 55. I think it's about half the population. So how can we draw folks to this area? It's not just agriculture. There are other communities that have recreation too, so this is, I think, one piece of that puzzle that will definitely over time add to the livability of our area. But yeah, you can advance to the next slide, please. Yeah, so I can take this one too. So there's a couple just minor typos on this, so I apologize, but this is just a little bit more of the history or timeline. 2018, so Tim Wagner came out and did the topography of the park, and it's very unique for this part of Minnesota. You don't see this type of soil, you don't see this type of clay in southwest Minnesota, so it's very ideal for mountain biking. Even compared to the Mankato area with Kiwanis Park, for folks who know where that is, it's off 169. Their terrain's a lot different than what we have, and it just makes it for a great opportunity. And the video that we have at the end will show that. So it is a 5.2 mile trail. It's not 6, but we have a goal of hopefully expanding it to be more. Sam and his crew helped make 1.2 miles, just shoveling and all that grunt work. And then we did the public hearings and stuff. in 2018, I think 2019. And then in 2020, right during COVID, I think right when they closed down the Capitol, that was the last time we did the testifying. And, a big shout out definitely would be to, Representative Gunther and Senator Rosen. I think without them, the testifying would have been kind of difficult. So I was, that was great. Jeremy and Jeff, Jacqueline, Dave, we went up there to the Capitol and testified a few times, and eventually we had the positive insight with that. And then it came down to the LCCMR grant that we wrote 2 times for that. So yeah, those are kind of the timelines then for that event. So you can advance to the next slide then.
One more slide, please.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another one.
These are just some of the photos. It's always good to add the photos. So yeah, like I said, I think we were there 3 times. I know Sam and I went once, and then 2 other times, Jeremy, Jeff, Dave, and I. It was a lot. If you like testifying, I know some folks do, but it's quite. It's not for me, but it's good to at least I can advocate for it. So, yeah. You can go to the next slide, please. Jeremy or Jeff, you can jump in if you want for this.
This was the original layout of the trails that were designed by Tim Wagner, the then owner of Trail Source. And it just kind of shows the smaller beginner trail kind of on the very top part, and then surrounding that is the more intermediate, advanced, and then the very advanced one you cross over a little stream, and then you work yourself up this big hill before you go the rest of the way. But the actual version is a little bit different, but this was just showcasing how we started and got to a point where we had a map in place that we could show and plan for, and then use for applying for grants.
And I've had the opportunity to ride this trail several times, and visited with a couple of guys that actually race throughout the country. And they said this is one of the best that they've ever ridden on, for just the moguls are extremely fun. Jeremy can attest to that even. But the flow, the natural flow of the course, for those experts said this is just an excellent track. So we're very proud of what we got down here, and the more people understand and see it, I think we're really excited for the future of this. And it was unnatural. The designer, he made a comment, this is one of the most natural designs for a track. He really liked it as well. So
yeah, I guess one thing I'll mention on top of that is, working with your potential contractor, get that vision out of what you want, and you're on the same page. But one of the things that we did was we allowed them to, once they actually got out there in the lay of the land, to make those necessary changes while they were designing. And I think that was an important piece of this project, that, to where we got the very, I think that was important. So yeah, some of the other amenities that the big thing that the grant funds went to were the trail development, and then the Friends of the Jackson County Trails had also put some money towards this. And so that was kind of the big deal to kind of move forward to, and then the county, in their budget planning, had done some stuff with some of the other amenities. And in the future, we'll look at some things as far as improving the bathroom facility and some of those things, but next slide.
Yeah.
So these are some pictures showing some of the trail markers. The upgrade of the picnic tables, bonfire area that we hope can be used even, we'll plan for use in future winter times too, for either grooming, for the use of fat bikes, for maybe some grooming partial, not all, but partial of the trails, as well as it can be used for other events such as snowshoeing. And on the bottom left-hand corner is our bike fix-it station that the Friends group had applied for a smaller grant and purchased that. So we added that to the back of the, it's a log shelter house that we upgraded the roof on it last summer. And much like our other shelter houses at our other campgrounds, we offer that for a day use, fee for $25, and you pretty much have a place to yourself. So next slide. You want to talk a little bit about the trail names, Luke? And
yeah, sure. Yeah, leave it to me to try to pronounce these. Yeah, Sam, I would say, is a history buff, or one of the history buffs of the trail group. I'm not. I'm not from the area, but Sam is. So with the trail segments, there is a beginner, a moderate, and more of the advanced, or in some cases expert, to what Jeff would attest to. But they're named after the three main segments, named after some Native American, I believe it's Sioux names, or Lakota. Yeah, I think it's Lakota or Sioux. So the easy is peace, which is definitely suitable because that's like one that anyone could walk, hike, bike on. It's very easy. The moderate, you start to see more of the quicker turns. And Jeremy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the moderate also runs kind of alongside the Des Moines River, right? So that's where they get the name, the Redstone River, from, for the Des Moines. And that one's just under 2 miles. And then the advanced, at one point there were, buffalo that roamed the area in Jackson, in this area. And that one's just under 3 miles. So that one was named, the Bison, Tatanka. And I think I agree. Why not name, give it some history with the Native, American tribes that once lived in this area. And I do know with this grant, the LCCMR grant, we did have to do an archaeological dig, with Mankato State. So, it was, kind of a nice thing to complement that, I guess, and just to some degree as well. So you can go to the next slide, please. Jeff, do you want to talk about the testifying in the grants real quick?
Sure. Yeah. So as Luke mentioned, I think Luke was up there, and maybe Jeremy too, 3 times. I was up there twice with some other folks. It was a great experience. So I'll just speak on my experience of testifying. So we got to testify in front of the senators, and we sat in the senator's chamber, and it can be really overwhelming. But we right before we testified, the University of Minnesota had testified, and they asked for, like, I don't know, $5 million, whatever it was. It was a lot more than we were looking for. And my name is Jeff Johnson, and there was a guy that ran for governor. I had to let them know that I'm not the guy who ran for governor, so they got a laugh out of that. But Luke and Sam did a lot of the speaking. They did a really good job, and they asked questions. The senators did, as you guys know, they get asked money all the time, and they were intrigued. I believe they're intrigued, and obviously they approved it. But it was a great experience, and so we asked. I don't remember the exact amounts, but around 200 grand, I think, or something like that. We probably should have asked more, as it turns out, because of prevailing wage. We didn't have that in our formula originally, the prevailing wage, which adds a lot to the cost. But Jeremy was pretty creative, and still we were able to complete the track. We just had to make some changes and stuff. But so it was a great experience. We got so we got it completed, and everybody did a great job up there testifying. And Julie Rosen was pivotal in making this move forward, probably. Julie, and then also another gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, but from Fairmont as well. But I think they helped lead the charge. So it was great. It was a great experience for us. So you can advance the slide, unless somebody else has some more to say.
Yeah, just other than, the grant was an LCCMR grant that the DNR oversees. And it's through the Environment and Natural Resource Trust Fund. And so I want to make a shout out to them. It was a good group to work with in the completion of this project.
Well, I can speak on this, I guess, too. So Sam is, who's not on here. Sam was, of course, pivotal in all of this, but he's working on getting a high school team. It's one of the, I believe, my understanding is this is one of the fastest growing high school sports. That in trap shooting, I believe. So we are starting to working on trying to get a team here in Jackson. I think we're bringing the kids out to the maybe that's already happened, Luke, but we're bringing the kids out to Belmont so they can experience it. We're looking for a coach. Sam, unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, I don't know how you want to look at it, but he's in the National Guards, so he's going to be gone for a while, so he can't coach. So we're looking for a coach to get this going. But again, like mentioned earlier, the opportunity is really big. So let's see if that materializes, and that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly add to this. Yeah, Jeff. Yeah, basically, I think the goal, it could be like a cooperative team, so doesn't have to just be Jackson. It could be, I think, anywhere or any Southwest Minnesota community, before Mankato, because Mankato has their own team. So really, just the line is south of Mankato, and then I think maybe as far east as maybe like Austin. I think Austin might have a team, so the cutoff might be to that area near Austin, but don't quote me for sure on that. I know that there's a region that Sam had put together that other schools could participate with the West Fork composite. So there is technically a team, there's just no coach, if that makes sense. So we have the jerseys and everything. It's just that we don't have an official team that, I don't know the riders yet. So yeah, but you can go to the next slide then. Yeah. And then I think this might be one of the last items here. So we will have a grand opening officially on June 7th from 4 to 7 p.m. right at the park. This will kind of basically be our bike month event. I know bike month is May, but this will be the bike month event. And then, of course, we're going to try to get some, local, regional, state media, if possible, the Chamber of Commerce, across the region as well. So yeah, everyone's welcome to come. And then I know the Minnesota Trails in their spring magazine, they put an article in about Jackson, the Belmont Park project, with the link there. And then the drone video that was done a couple weeks ago. So Ted or Natalie, are you able to share that, please? Yeah, and there will be a longer version available. That's in the works too. So that was the shorter of the video. So we'll be sure to get the longer one. So you can go to the next slide then. And then we kind of already touched a little bit. Jeremy did, but with the updates, adding more campgrounds, sites, maybe adding a skills course. I know that's always been one of Sam's big things. Adding like a little separate area in the park for just more of obstacle courses and whatnot. And then eventually the goal, if we don't get a team, at least hosting like a racing event, hosting a high school league racing event, because we can always host an event. Whether we have a team or not. So that's one of the goals we have as well. So you can go on the next slide then, please. Yeah, and these are kind of all the folks who were, it was definitely everyone on the trail committee was helpful. The county engineering and Ethan with helping get the video done for us. He's been, he gave us a good deal on the video, and the community education has been very helpful. And definitely Sam though. I think if it wouldn't be for Sam, I don't think this ever would have happened. So it's too bad Sam's not on here. He can always watch the recording, but this was really all Sam. I remember 2017 when he came in and said that he wanted to turn this into a mountain bike park. Unless Lynn, am I missing anything? I'm pretty sure you were there that day too, but I know Sam was on board with this from day one. But yeah, otherwise you can go to the next slide. And I think that might be, those are just some quotes that we got over the time. For the sake of time, we don't need to read over those, but anyone's welcome to have this PowerPoint. We can always share that with folks too. So. Yeah. And I think, I put the PowerPoint together, but if you want to ever get a hold of the trail group, Jeremy or Jeff or Lynn, just contact me and can definitely get you their contact information. So I think that might be our last slide then. Yeah. Yeah, and that's just a few. There's more trail members. That was just at the time, that's who was at one of the meetings, and we got the photos. So.
Thanks, Luke and
Yep.
Jeff and Jeremy and Mary and all the folks that are on here from Jackson. It's great to have such a large group of folks that are coming together to present your story and talk about infrastructure changes that have made it an awesome destination for a single track, and how those collective partnerships, the strategic partnerships that you formed that took years to put together and came together to make this work a success happened. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. So hopefully the folks that are participating on this webinar today have picked up a few gems from what you have shared with us to hopefully bring back to your own communities. So it's great to hear from South Central Minnesota, from Jackson. I want to open up for Q&A, and I do see Dorian, you have your hand up, and I'll call on you first here. I know Dorian had been mentioned at the beginning of the webinar by Mary. There's been a lot of work over the years that that you have done together. So go ahead, Dorian.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that I met the Jackson County Trails group more than 20 years ago. And I've always thought of them as a great example of what a smaller greater Minnesota community could do to advocate and really add tourism attraction and great public health facilities to get people leading a more active life. It takes a long time, doesn't it, Lynn? And but persistence is something that's so important, and that's what's. It's great to have a partnership between the city and the county, and have such passionate advocates in the community doing great work. And I agree. You know, there may not be a lot of people using the mountain bike trail at this time, but I think marketing it more to places like Sioux Falls, and getting it on the map, because there's a lot of people you know, driving on I-90, and there's a lot of people going west to go mountain biking that you might be able to get to pull over for an afternoon and stop and eat or stay overnight, just because that facility's there. So I think you're headed in the right direction. I was all in on the high school cycling league soon as it was formed. And I think it's a great way for high school kids to set an example for the middle school and elementary school kids, that bicycling can be a high school level sport. So thanks for everything that you all do. The people who work, you know, who work for the city and county, and the advocates. It was a great pleasure of mine to come and award Jackson as a bike-friendly community on behalf of the League of American Bicyclists. So keep up the great work.
Thanks, Dorian. It's really cool to see how these, you know, these partnerships have really continued and grown over the years. And as Dorian mentioned, it's the timeline can be a lengthy one. So I want to hand it over to anyone else who would like to maybe go on video or go off mute and ask a question of any of the speakers today to continue this dialogue about strategic partnerships and infrastructure. Hearing from Jackson, Minnesota today. So we'll go ahead and just check the chat box here to see if there's some questions. You're welcome to put a question.
Like Michelle has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Michelle.
This I learned so much, and thank you for everybody involved in this. Can you maybe talk a little bit about some of the partners, like I think Luke put in the chat, it's probably a good thing to reach out to hospitals and paramedics about these sorts of things. But yeah, partnerships is really interesting to me, and who we aren't partnering, who maybe we could or should. Do you have any thoughts on that? And then one other question is it's great to get these things built, and then who gets to maintain and operate them, if you have thoughts on that.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I'll add a little bit. While it was being built, one has the opportunity to meet people that tried to get some, try it out, as segments were built. It was permissible that, we didn't officially make it open, but, it's hard to keep people away when they hear about this. And when they were working on the very back 3-mile part, you'd have some people trying out the beginner part. And that's where, having, they would meet the contractor, but, having somebody from the county there, you had a chance to meet them up, in person. And you kind of started then where they were then, volunteering to be kind of on a maintenance volunteer group that would then partner with, the county. I mean, the county is going to assume in their parks budget, for some things, but in talking with Sam and the other ones that are in this bike group, you get together and you ride, but part of the evening is putting the time and effort into doing some trail improvements, small projects, and that's when you can kind of grow as a community that way. And then as you get going that way, then maybe open it up for some of these youth groups as we are trying to touch base with the schools. We're trying real hard to kind of partner with, the physical education scheme of things where, us or Bike MN, there's personnel that, we just getting the students out there as part of their education curriculum. And then we would put the program on for basic, bike riding, safety, use, and really open up that opportunity. Luke or Jeff?
Yeah, Jeff evaded us, but that's okay. Yeah, that's true. I know there, everything you said, Jeremy, is pretty much spot on. I've contemplated, is it even worth creating like, the city, well, there's a couple cities in our area that have like an adopted trail program, to make sure trails stay, clean. If you see debris on it, then, maybe that's something that could be pursued for everyday folks, who just even want to get out there and check out the trail, thing. This is great. I want to do this. And then, help maintain the trails periodically as well when they're out there, so that might be, that's been something I just kind of thought of, and, as a way to maybe encourage and, entice folks to get out there more too.
But really, since we're looking at it from the standpoint of being a regional, or if somebody's driving through, they can stop in and use our facility. We've really tried to reach out to the surrounding communities, our neighboring counties, for some of those activities. I know some school districts within Jackson County, they will have, some sessions for summer school, and we've already been approached for having an activity out there. So I guess, we need to keep that in mind, as an option too. School's out, but us in parks, that's our time to shine. And so if we can be available for those opportunities where they can, shuttle some group of kids out there, it's a win-win, should be a win-win for everyone.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. That's helpful information, and there's lots of great comments coming through in the chat box as well. So helpful info, love the adopt a trail idea, great way to get more community folks involved. I see a couple of hands raised, and so we'll get to some of the questions from the participants here on the webinar. And Luke, you're sharing a little bit more information here in the chat box as well about the Adopt a Trail program. So definitely, if you're a participant in the webinar, check the chat box here, and then we'll bring this forward in the comments here live on the video as well. So I'll hand it over to Dorian and then Ted.
All right. Thanks, Natalie. Again, I just want to say what a great example of this is of being organized. I know Jackson uses the Walk Bike Fun curriculum in their schools, and having plans and engaged citizens and public officials and employees is so important, because it's highly likely that MnDOT is going to get a chunk of the general fund surplus for safe routes to school and active transportation. So being this organized, you folks in Jackson will be able to be ahead of the curve and get a good application in, whether it's for safe routes to school or expansion of the mountain bike park or other trail development or other active transportation projects. So again, you're a great example of what being well organized, how being well organized can benefit a community. Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think, for those on the call who might not be interested at all in mountain biking, I guess I just wanted to throw in that, for many people that, use bicycles for transportation, they start out as recreational bicyclists. And so mountain biking can really be a great gateway, especially for connecting with youth, because mountain biking's cool. Sometimes like, just riding, to work or something like that on a very straight trail is boring, so for kids, a little bit of excitement, adrenaline and stuff, this can really be a great way to do that. Also, just mountain bike culture is really interesting too, about like the volunteer trail maintenance, and that trails are free. I mean, it's wild that like, you can go to a place like this, like, seeing the video, like how much work has gone into that, how much equipment had to be used to like make berms and all that kind of thing. And then it's just like, oh, ride this as much as you want. That's really fascinating. Anybody on here who's like a cross-country skier is probably very jealous. Usually you have to pay trail fees and things like that, for grooming and that sort of thing. So, and I guess I just had two questions then. So many of the trails here in the Twin Cities actually have gates for when they're wet. Somebody actually a volunteer will come by and assess that and actually close the trail. And I had another question, but it eludes me. So I guess I'll just go with that. Oh, I know what it was. In the slides, there was something about there was some negative feedback, but when you're going to put in the trails, and I'm just curious what that was and how you either can convince people otherwise or just what that process was like.
Yeah, that may have been before your time, Jeremy. I think it was the farm. So it's a kind of a farmer, I guess you could say. His property is right in the entrance of Belmont County Park, and he has a couple or two or three bulls that roam around. I mean, it's gated, but I think it was just more of the concern with, well, what happens if my animals get loose and chase down mountain bikers, that was, as far as I know, the only negative feedback over the course of time. Jeff was able to visit with him a few times and simmered it down. It will be interesting to see, though, as this, I'm sure over time this place will be more popular. The goal is to add more parking. If this individual will get kind of, hopefully he doesn't, but will he get upset with more traffic going past his property? You know what I mean? Because it's a dirt road. There'll be more dust in the air. Hopefully it doesn't lead to that, but that was the only negative feedback, was just the fact that he has bulls, and if they get loose, he doesn't want anyone to get chased down by him. That's all I remember in speaking with Jeff.
So Ted, maybe that was the direction that you were thinking it was going to go with your question about the gates, maybe not. I know I participated in some trail work on the single track. I like to ride single track as well. And it's exciting to hear the story out of Jackson, Minnesota. And if you do want to get involved, there's lots of opportunities. So I don't know, Luke, if you have a link to some opportunities, if folks want to help with the Belmont Park and to engage and become a strategic partner with your group, join with the Jackson Trails Committee or other opportunities to help with maintaining the trail. Did you want to speak to that at all?
Well, if anyone on this call wants to move to Jackson, that would be helpful. We have a lot of older folks. I think I mentioned, a community. We're getting older. We're not getting younger. I mean, we've had some, high schoolers go to college and come back, but come back to work in Jackson County. But even as a committee, Lynn will say that, Lynn, you can chime in anytime, but yeah, Lynn feels we definitely need more younger folks on the committee. I agree. I think I'm the youngest one, actually. It's trying to find those volunteers has been the biggest challenge just for the committee in itself. But maybe the mountain bike group or this maintenance group, Jeremy, maybe we could see if they have any interest to join.
I think what I'm hoping as well is, somebody, when you look at the promotion and getting back to the gates, and I mean, I envision, there's multi social media platforms out there that let people know, is your facility fit to ride? Is it not? How to get that information out on a timely basis. And so that's kind of, a challenge that we'll be working through. But yeah, I mean, as far as, the gates and stuff like that, we've done things where we've closed trails off in wet conditions and gone back out and opened them back up. But, how can we use, social media then to our benefit to get the word out real quick that, we haven't gone away, but the conditions just weren't right to ride, but now they are. So.
Thanks, Jeremy. And this is, it's an important part to consider when you're putting in new infrastructure, a bike facility such as this, to consider these different pieces, the maintenance and the local volunteers and all of these as part of your partnerships to make them successful. So we have a question from Dorian. I'll hand it back over to you. And then
quickly that I'm off to the Capitol to represent you all and make sure that you get your share of the money. But I also wanted to share that Roseau, Minnesota, 6-7 miles from Canada or 12 miles from Canada has a mountain bike park too. And the enthusiasts in Roseau host weekly rides, I think, on a Tuesday night. And, I don't know if more than 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people ever show up, but I think that's a great way to promote your park. So think about it. And maybe you can find somebody to be there to greet people at 5 o'clock on a Wednesday night or something, or Tuesday night, and see if you can get more people to come. So thanks for everything you do. I'm going to sign off.
Yeah, thanks, Dorian.
So thanks for everyone's questions here. I want to close with a couple of slides here. You should see the screens pop up here, the first of 2 event slides. And we wanted to just share a little bit about a couple of events coming down the line here. And if folks want to stay on and stay over a couple of minutes, we can maybe continue some question and answers if you would like, if Luke and others are still available for a few minutes to take a couple of additional questions. So just to share with you all, we usually close these webinars to just promote a few events that are coming up in May. And these are, we share just a couple of events from from the month period between this event, this webinar, and the next webinar. So just coming up in the next few weeks here. Of course, May is National Bike Month, and May 19th being National Bike to Work Day. So definitely encourage you to participate in that. We have events coming up in Greater Minnesota in Northfield, Ely, Grand Marais, Brainerd, Winona, and Crosby Ironton over at Cuyuna. In the Twin Cities, the folks that are coming together to do some rides there, St. Paul Bicycle Coalition, Rocket Racing Team, Move Minnesota, Willie Fun Community Ride, maybe Spring Lake Park or St. Louis Park. The Minnesota Arboretum is involved here, Bike MN, Freewheel, Tour de Luce, and the Open Streets in East Lake there. So some events coming up in the next few weeks here. And then, of course, you may have heard of these rides before, but what we'd like to share, this is a new colorful slide that includes some of the Bike MN rides coming up here in 2023. Tour of Saints, Sunday, July 9th. Rock and Roll the Lakes, Saturday, August 12th. St. Paul Classic, Sunday, September 10th. And the Mankato River Ramble on Sunday, October 8th. So these are just a couple of the signature events here from Bike MN. There are many other events that are taking place over the course of the summer. Definitely reach out and get those shared on bikemn.org so that you can promote your event through that platform. And if you do have questions, you know, Ted oftentimes works with a lot of our events, and definitely reach out, Ted at bikemn.org if you have questions. Get involved, volunteer, and go ride the rides. They're really awesome, and it's great to be back, and I think they'll be well attended this year. So that's really great to have those coming down the line. So Luke and Mary, did you want to stay on for a couple of more questions, or do you need to go?
Well, I think you mean Lynn. Lynn must have left because I don't see her on the thing anymore.
Okay.
I know we went over. I know we went a few minutes over, so.
We did go a couple minutes over, and I do want to make sure if people need to drop off, definitely go ahead and drop off. There was a question about whether or not there's any posted trail rules or etiquette. And so I just wanted to share that question if you wanted to take a moment to speak to that. And again, Luke, if you want to share your email address in the chat box, if folks have additional questions, maybe they can email them to you as well.
Yeah, Jeremy, I think we've talked about the trail etiquette signage. I mean, we have that in the city limits.
We'll also post something out there as well, and really hit it hard during our open house. But the kiosk just being built this spring out there, we've got to now, you know, we've got the map that now needs to be put out there. We're still modifying, you know, the one that will be used for, you know, local, you know, EMS crews should and if and when that ever happens. But they've already done one mock rescue out there, but they were going to try to do another one after we had done the 3 mile, which is further out and a little bit further away than the building facilities. And so yeah, and in regards to the landowner that's right there, I'll personally give him a I mean, I've kind of built a pretty good rapport with him the last couple of years. He's got my number, and if something, you know, it's always good to have kind of a watchful eye, you know, next to your parks as well. And so I've appreciated that relationship, and he's been good with that. So otherwise, I don't have any other thing. I do got to get going here pretty soon, but thanks everyone for hanging in there with us today.
Well, a huge thank you to Jeremy and Luke and Lynn and Jeff who presented today, and to all of the participants on this webinar. Thank you so much for participating today, and join us again in June for our next monthly webinar on the 3rd Wednesday of the month at 11:30. Have a wonderful rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you.